Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. We will be breaking down a week of mandatory minicamp storylines, including the continued existence of Stefon Diggs. At least we hope. They haven't found him. They don't know if he was at Bill's minicamp or not at Bill's minicamp. If he was doing both at the same time, no, he was there. Still don't know what all that was about.
He says he's never not been at Bill's minicamp.
He has always been at Bill's minicamp, and listen for more of theories actually on Stefon Diggs' whereabouts on Galaxy Brains this week. But we're about the latest in the DeAndre Hopkins saga. It seems like he might be getting close to signing with the Patriots. With the Ravens talking about Rashad Bateman's health, where I've seen some of the Twitter doctors say actually it's good that he got a shot in his foot and had his hardware removed. But just highlighting, is Rashad Bateman actually the Ravens receiver to draft? First rounder Zay Flowers signed his contract this week. Talk about why the Commanders are suddenly hyping Antonio Gibson nonstop after they were trying to move on from him last year. The Steelers talking about the run, John Mechie returning for the Texans, and then some fun facts from our team preview series, which began this week. We've had fantasy previews up on the site on the Cardinals, the Bills, the Ravens, another team near the beginning of the alphabet that I can't remember. So check it out. We're posting a new one every day. But first, Denny, you wanted to talk about you were rocked, shaken. Yeah. Some comments you heard from George Kittle on friend of the show, Kevin Clark's Slow News Day podcast.
That's right. Yes, I recommend folks check that out. Slow News Day pod. I thought of Pat. I thought of our good friend and colleague Pat Daugherty because he is not the biggest fan of Kyle Shanahan. Maybe thinks that Shanahan thinks too much, a little too much, and a little too hard. He's a little bit too much of a galaxy brain, which is something, considering that we are both galaxy brained. And so George Kittle was on with Kevin Clark, and he says the following: that Shanahan intentionally calls running plays that won't work, and he does it multiple times a game to set up the play action boot. Where whoever's playing, whichever of the 45 49ers quarterbacks are playing, can then fake the handoff, roll out, throw it to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo can run 55 yards for a touchdown. And so it raises a lot of questions, but mostly I wanted to hear from you guys. What do we think? What do we think of Kyle Shanahan, one of the most respected play callers in modern NFL history, intentionally calling plays that will fail?
Well, I think the question that Kyle and I both had when you were trying to explain this to us before the show started was logic ? Like, what?
It's as if someone told him. It's like someone told him, "Oh, you actually don't have to run the ball. Like the metrics show, you don't have to run the ball effectively to do play action for that to work." And he goes like, "That's a pretty good idea." And like, wait, what do you think I said? Because the way you're smiling suggests you're going in a different direction with this. He's like, "You're telling me I should run the ball ineffectively. If you don't need effective running to set up play action, you must need ineffective running." And then some poor analytics intern was like, no, his life's work. This is a whole summer project for like a UCLA undergrad kid. And Shanahan just completely missing the mark.
First off, Hayden Winks went to USC. And Denny, I guess the logic is probably like, oh, they'll get him thinking the running game's not working today.
Yeah.
Then we'll hit him in the mouth then with the play action. And I feel like wouldn't the play action just be set up better by successful running plays, though?
You would think. You would think, but he actually – so George Kittle cited some plays against the Seahawks, I think, just last season, where Shanahan called a play for Elijah Mitchell to basically just fall down and like not gain any yards. And this was the plan. We're setting it up. We're setting up the big play. And guess what, guys? Here's the worst part. It worked. It worked. Okay. So, he is definitely, Kyle Shanahan is definitely once again, poking a finger in the eyes of every analytics nerd in the world. But until it doesn't work, that doesn't matter.
So I feel like if they're actually taking a dive, why did they get rid of Trey Sermon? Then couldn't that have just been like who agrees to like be a professional athlete?
Who's the fall guy in this plan?
It should be Kyle Juszczyk. Maybe it'd actually be good for something other than pointless.
Nah, Kyle Juszczyk is picking up 8 yards every time. He's physically incapable.
I just don't understand the thing. Like, why it would be better if the play were successful. I mean,
I think maybe the idea is like, if you see that your run game is vulnerable, the defense will attack that vulnerability more. But like, I don't think that logic holds true. I'm trying to give him some sort of benefit of the doubt. But like, Shanahan can scheme a good run game. And we know that play action, I think, is just fairly independent, good or bad, of how the running works. And I think like it's fairly obvious is that like it's intuitive if you're a linebacker. You see handoff, you go get football. You don't think like, well, actually, they're averaging -0.1 EPA per play, so I'm going to sit back in the zone. Like, it's human instinct if you're a linebacker to attack the ball. So I don't get why good or bad. Like, it just doesn't make it makes no sense.
You want them to commit for play action fakes to be as successful as they can be. You want the defense committing as many resources as possible to the running game. And it looks like if your run game isn't working that day, maybe they'll commit fewer resources to defending the run. And they'll drop back to defend the pass more. I feel like there's no planet in which it would be set up better by poor run plays than
this is a thing that sounds like something he would try in preseason and just no one told him to stop trying it. Like, I've heard of stand-ups. If like you're a stand-up comedian and you're trying out new material, if you've got material and it works and it really kills, I think it was like Chris Rock I heard about doing this. He would just intentionally bomb for like a minute or two to reset the crowd, to try out his next material. He didn't want them to have such a happy, good vibe going into fresh material because it sort of predisposes them to laughing whether it's good or not. And Shanahan took this like art form and was like, I can apply that. I see this thing that is in no way related. I'm going to do that in my job.
That's actually a really, really good point, Kyle. And by the way, it sounds like you guys have never seen a little movie called Rocky. Okay. Rocky wins all of his fights by letting his opponent beat the crap out of him until intentionally like losing the fight until the opponent is so tired of beating the crap out of Rocky that Rocky then can pounce and win the fight. He does this over and over until he has severe brain damage. Okay.
Didn't he intentionally lose the first movie just to win the second one?
That's possible.
Didn't I believe he stole that rope-a-dope strategy from someone a little more famous than Sly Stallone, by the way, by the name of Muhammad Ali.
Rope-a-dope
against George Foreman.
All that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think the Shanahan's just trying to give his offense brain damage, and then I mean.
To be fair, like, this is exactly what Andy Reid does. He's like, let me do something really dumb. And no, I'll do it when it matters. And we'll see how it goes. And it has worked out shockingly well for both of these coaches.
There will never be a larger brain than Kyle Shanahan's. I think we know that. There will never, ever be a larger brain than Kyle Shanahan's. And real quick, I have a Zoomer question for Kyle. Do you know who George Foreman is?
I only know of him as, like, old boxer. That's
it. Do you know what product he was famous for after his old boxing?
It's got to be the Foreman grill, if not.
There you go.
Man, I was hoping he wouldn't know.
No, that's good. I'm happy to hear that.
Kyle is a fake Zoomer. He knows way too many millennial and boomer things.
Yeah.
Kyle, he's like Kyle's heard of the Eagles. Yeah. Like, that's not good.
I have very passing. Because I think you undersell most kids of my age, like I think maybe I'm just off the cutoff of millennial, because you guys raising us only let us enjoy your culture. My dad would never let me listen to any music produced in my lifetime. He's like, you're gonna love the Eagles, and I'm like, again, wow, Dad, that's really cool.
My dad quite literally never listened to a song recorded after 1972 when he was raising me, so that does check out. We've got to talk about stuff from 2023 now. We've got to bring the show into the modern times. And although we're immediately talking about a classic rock artist himself, DeAndre Hopkins, well past his prime, but still touring the country. He's played shows recently in Nashville and Boston. It sounds like he's probably about to sign with the New England Patriots. Do we have a preference on where DeAndre Hopkins ends up, Denny? And do we kind of maybe even like the Patriots as a landing spot with his ex-coach, Bill O'Brien?
I do. I like the fit. I like the potential target domination that Hopkins would enjoy in the New England offense. And from a kind of a zoomed out standpoint on the Patriots offense, it was reported this week by Jeff Howe in The Athletic that basically Bill O'Brien is installing many elements of the offense that Mac Jones operated under at Alabama. Okay, so something he's very comfortable with. He has a lot of knowledge of, and this actually is reflected in Mac Jones recently saying we're doing a normal offense this year, rather than whatever the hell we did last year, because no one really knows what we were doing. including our coaches. So I think that this Patriots offense, as horrible as it was last year, and I take no pleasure in saying this as a lifelong Patriots hater, I think this Patriots offense is actually trending in the right direction, and I would be very into Hopkins if he landed there.
Kyle, do we agree that if Hopkins ends up in New England, he will just be a complete targets dominator? Because like the weird thing about the Patriots offense is that like none of the players they're all like number 3 receivers, but it's a super deep receiver core. There's actually lots of target competition, but is it good competition? Not really. So do we think that he would show up as an instant targets dominator? Player who looked like he was on the decline in 2021 for looking a lot better in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they have bodies. They have a lot of bodies. They have a lot of guys who would make a lot of rosters in the NFL. They don't have anyone who projects to be a massive target earner. Like I'm pumping up my like late round Devontae Parker shares. I'm like, oh yeah, like I think he's maybe their best pass catcher. That tells you the state of where things are. That should not tell you too much about Devontae Parker. And as Denny pointed out, like this was a legitimately good offense 2 years ago. They were 7th in points per game, 10th in EPA per play. Like they weren't even like super run heavy either. They were about middle of the pack. They averaged in each of the past 2 seasons, actually 32 pass attempts. That is closer to the Bills pass attempts last year than it is to the Titans. Like we think of them as this super ground and pound team, and generally they are, but because when they're doing it well, they're successful on offense, they just get to stay in drives. They get to play possession ball, and that means a decent amount of pass attempts. Like good offenses just get to play long drives, and that results in pass attempts. So yeah, this is a better spot than I really think we're down to probably just the Titans and the Patriots. And I agree, it's trending Patriots pretty heavily. Out of these 2 teams, you're taking the Patriots. I think the Chiefs are out of the question. Bills I haven't even heard a like reporter.
The Bills, I was talking about this with Matt Kelly on his podcast this week, so I don't want to plagiarize the points I made from a different podcast, but I don't understand why the Bills like aren't all over DeAndre Hopkins. He feels like kind of like the missing link for their offense almost. Like someone who could take
money right now, frankly.
Someone who could take advantage of all like the single coverage looks you'd get opposite Stephon Diggs. That's where like DeAndre Hopkins just like totally feasts. And the Bills, the receiver depth chart is just dire. Like it's Gabe Davis and Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir is kind of an interesting young player, but like that's a dire receiver depth chart for what's supposed to be an elite offense and a Super Bowl contender, if not a Super Bowl favorite. And if I were the Bills, I'd be moving like heaven and earth to make the money work to sign DeAndre Hopkins. And I've left everyone speechless.
I mean, one other thing I want to point about the New England situation. There's no real target competition, and I think that Parker would be someone I'd be interested in if this offense is on the upswing. But Juju Smith-Schuster, it was reported this week that the Chiefs had to very carefully manage his knee situation throughout the second half of the season last year. And that knee situation has not gotten much better. Apparently he's not doing mini camp stuff. He is expected to participate in training camp, but he's a very old, like 26-year-old. Like, he's
been in the league 14 years.
Yeah. He's at 100 injuries. I really don't see him as any kind of threat to Hopkins. I really do think Hopkins could like lead the league in targets in New England.
I don't know if I go that far. I'm trying to think of other examples. I feel like these veteran retreads. I always forget, is it retread or retreat?
Retread. I think you said this last week.
I did. I never know. Had a history for a while of not working in New England. Like the infamous example being like Chad Ochocinco, like the offense is just too complex, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, I don't think that's really a concern anymore. That seemed kind of more like a Brady McDaniels thing. Like,
yes, it was.
Our offense is just so hard. The guy's like, can I just like run a route and catch the ball? And they're like, no. That's not how it works.
I mean, honestly, the only guy who ever got the offense was Julian Edelman because he was a quarterback, and he had to you had to know what it was like to be a quarterback in order to run routes in that offense. Of course, Edelman played quarterback in college, but no, this is a totally different system, and I was very encouraged to hear that Jones is going to be running a system that he has a lot of familiarity with. Also, I said this last time we gathered, I think last Thursday, but Mac Jones is only 2 years separated from being fifth in completion rate over expected in the league. So, I mean, he was really good as a rookie.
Mac Jones, true thing. By the way, it's everyone reuniting with Bill O'Brien, DeAndre Hopkins, Mac Jones, Bill Belichick. So Bill O'Brien, if I were Bill O'Brien, I would simply reunite with even more people.
What's David Johnson up to these days?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He actually is definitely going to sign with them, isn't he?
He is. Because James Robinson, David Johnson is a free agent, by the way. He is not a member of the New Orleans Saints anymore. That's enough DeAndre Hopkins. By the time you listen to this, he might already be on the New England Patriots. We'll go to AFC rival Baltimore, where this week Ravens coach John Harbaugh told reporters Rashad Bateman had a, quote, cortisone-type shot in his foot. Will miss several days of practice. Will supposedly be ready for training camp. Like I said in the lead, the Twitter doctors were like, sure, it's bad now, but it should maybe be better in the long run. And I just couldn't help but like juxtapose it with Zay Flowers, first-round pick, signing his rookie contract. And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, the ADPs do have Rashad Bateman going ahead of Zay Flowers right now in summer best ball drafts. But are we maybe barking up the wrong tree with a guy who is 0 for 2 so far in his NFL career of staying healthy and producing? And should we maybe be shifting our focus to Zay Flowers and a Ravens offense that is supposedly opening it up this year?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of looked like we were on pace to go 1 for 2 on seasons of Rashad Bateman being successful last year. It was a very brief stay that he got in the league last year. He just didn't get much of a run, but he was looking good. Like, he had a really strong yards per route run. I think they finally found a role that worked for him in the offense. And his rookie year, I believe he had core muscle surgery like right before, and that's why he missed the start of the season, if I remember correctly. So didn't really get a fair shake in the offseason and into the season. And last year, even as the offense wasn't at its best, he still looked pretty good. So, like, this is obviously like a little bit concerning. You don't want to see something like this linger, even if it doesn't linger into training camp. It's not the best vibes we got going on here.
No,
but things were turning up last year. Things were headed in the right direction for a very brief moment, and I think we should see at least a bit more passing volume, and most importantly, just more passing creativity from this team. So, like, if you wanted to go Zay Flowers over Bateman, I get it. I think actually I like both of them. I think this is a spot where you want to buy into the uncertainty of, I don't know, frankly, how this target share is going to shake out, but I do like the prospects of this offense turning around, and I think that gives it such a good ceiling. So I actually like both Bateman and Flowers at their like respective ADPs. And last I checked, they were fairly close to
They're very, very close. Bateman's the wide receiver 44, Zay Flowers the wide receiver 46, with only Elijah Moore in between them.
I worry that we are overlooking Odell Beckham completely. In this.
I haven't worried about that yet.
No, listen.
You are right. I mean, he's like one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL this year.
I get the sense, I really do get the sense that the Ravens want him to be a thing. And a lot of that really matters. Like, when a team is like, we invested a lot to bring you here. Lamar Jackson's talking him up. I mean, Lamar's also talking up Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, to be fair. But with the Bateman foot issue, with, Zay Flowers being, I don't know, a rookie, I do have this horrible sense that we're going to be fighting tooth and nail over, is it Bateman or is it Flowers? And Beckham will be the clear answer.
I am just kind of starting to feel like Bateman might be a full fade, where 2 years is just an eternity. And if NFL coaches see you not being healthy for 2 years, they start to lose faith really, really quick. And the fact that he's not having a normal offseason now is just a really bad sign. And it's just human nature. The Ravens, Zay Flowers is the first-round pick. He's there and healthy. It's going to be human nature to like want to favor him and be the guy they're like starting to design things around. And Rashad Bateman, we still just love it on paper, the skill set, the resume, but I would not be surprised if the Ravens maybe like unconsciously even start favoring Zay Flowers and maybe make him the one they're directing some of these non-Odell Beckham targets to, non-Mark Andrews targets to. And but Rashad Bateman's gonna like fall like wide receiver 50 and just become like a huge value.
Right. Yeah. I think his ADP matters a lot. And right now, I do think OBJ's ADP is not hateful. Maybe that's the millennial talking in me.
I do think I say all that about Rashad Bateman, wide receiver 44. I feel like kind of like an auto flyer to take, like on someone with his pedigree. I laid out all the negative reasons, but like that is the part of the board where I feel like it's pretty enticing to take a risk on Rashad Bateman. and again, where we hope Todd Monken is really bringing the pass attempts. So we're talking about a guy who has not delivered on the hype in his first 2 years in the league, and Rashad Bateman, someone who has not been delivering on the hype, really, really massive hype the past 2 or 3 years. Antonio Gibson, the Commanders seem to be totally dialed off Antonio Gibson last offseason. He got talked about as an afterthought, basically. Like he was going to be the third back in that backfield behind Brian Robinson and J.D. McKissick. But Brian Robinson has a horribly inefficient rookie year. J.D. McKissick gets hurt again, suffers a neck injury, is no longer on the team. Now, all of a sudden, with new offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy in town, we're getting like Antonio Gibson's getting hyped like it's his rookie year again. They're saying something like crazier every day. Ron Rivera just said on Thursday that he, quote, is a matchup nightmare for the opponent, which might be news to anyone who's watched Antonio Gibson through the first 3 years of his career. But they love the guy, Denny. What do we make of the Commanders suddenly talking up Antonio Gibson every single day?
I mean, I think that Eric Bieniemy wants Ron Rivera to know who Antonio Gibson is. He's saying, he's putting Gibson's name in the press as much as possible because he's like, maybe if I keep saying it, Ron will acknowledge Gibson's existence rather than constantly talking about Brian Robinson, one of the most inefficient, slowest running backs in the league last year. And, it's very frustrating from the standpoint of someone who wants to see good players get the ball. Antonio Gibson is a good player. I guess he had some fumbling issues.
Is he?
He was good. Dreadful last year. I think the whole backfield, like you said, was dreadful. But last year, he was 40th in rush yards over expected per attempt, 54th in yards after contact. Well, that's fine. He's the breakaway runs type of guy. He was 55th out of all running backs in the rate of his yards, the percent of his yards that came on 15 plus yard carries. His yardage was exclusively coming on short, grinded out stuff. And he's never actually graded particularly highly in breakaway rate. So he is the lightning that never strikes in this backfield. I don't get he's the thunder and lightning portion, but he's yet to strike. Right. I will say, I think part of the talking up of him is that they don't have J.D. McKissick. I think they cut him for cap reasons this offseason. I don't expect them to bring him back for any reason. So they have that role to fill. And of the many options Gibson has for playing time, the one that he's actually been successful at in his career being a pass catching back last year was 11th in yards per out run, 4th in PFF receiving grade, and he had a top 10 target share among running backs. So he looks like a legit, he played wide receiver in college. Of course he looks like a good pass catcher out of the backfield, but I don't think he's got it as a runner. And Brian Robinson started to turn the corner. I mean, he literally got shot before the season.
He did.
I'm not shocked. And I didn't think he was going to be an explosive runner coming out of college, but you get shot, and I'm going to give you some leeway in your rookie season. And from week 11 onward, he wasn't bad. He was PFF's RB15 in rushing grade. He forced the 10th most tackles, the 3rd most carries of 10 plus yards. He started putting them together. And on the whole year, he even ranked better than Antonio Gibson in rush yards over expected. I think they've mostly got 2 just guys in this backfield, but Brian Robinson might be the better pure runner, frankly. Gibson just, I don't think he's ever made that transition to running back yet.
But besides that, he's been pretty good.
No, but Denny, what you were getting at is what Kyle did get at, where he was finally becoming a much more efficient pass catcher last year, where he was they needed him for that role and he didn't start commanding it, where he started to seem like he had a little something as a pass, which it never made sense that he wasn't featured more that way to begin with.
It's crazy. They wanted to use him as
literally a wide receiver, since he was literally a wide receiver. It seemed like he maybe would have made that guy the pass catching back, and necessity mandated that they did it. He started to look good in that role, and it seems like maybe that's just that's the only role they feel good about right now. They're not sure about Brian Robinson after his inconclusive rookie year. Maybe they are just sold on Antonio Gibson as a pass catcher, and that's why they're talking about. Yeah, Brian Gibson, by the way, Ryan Robinson, by the way, was shot in the leg. So he probably gets a pass on that rookie year.
Yeah,
is that part of the body important for this sport? I don't really watch it. So.
We're looking into it very powerfully. But what was Eric Bieniemy? What is the Chiefs' reputation for targeting running backs in the passing game?
They do it a lot.
Did they do it I feel like they didn't. I didn't know if they did it more than average though. I guess they do.
I mean, I would say they
do in the red zone.
Yeah, over the past 2 seasons, the running backs have been peppered with targets where it counts, inside the 20, inside the 10.
Yeah, they definitely do it in the red zone. So Antonio Gibson, he's got some juice back. Going from one poor 2022 running game to another. The Steelers, it was horribly inefficient. Just a lot of wasted plays with their run game last year. Najee Harris was playing through a Lisfranc injury and looked like it until basically the final 5 or 6 weeks of the season. We started to look a little better. The whole Steelers franchise fortunes depend on Kenny Pickett becoming a franchise quarterback and maybe George Pickens becoming a viable starter opposite Deontay Johnson. So naturally, they're talking up the running game. And Steelers offensive coordinator Matt Canada saying this week on their approach for the upcoming season, we want to run the ball. We want to be physical. And we want to be a good team that can throw the ball down the field. So it sounds like they want to be a really old school offense that just runs a lot and then tries to set up deep shots. This is going to work.
That's the Steelers' way. The Steelers love playing like it's 1989, and they will continue to do that, giving 100 carries a game to Najee Harris. By the way, our own Zach Kruger has done some looking into Najee Harris's metrics, and I'm not going to bore you with the details because they're pretty nerdy. But here's the conclusion from Zach Kruger: is that Najee Harris has almost the exact same profile as Ezekiel Elliott over the past 2 seasons.
That's bad since he's still on his rookie contract and isn't supposed to be used up yet.
So one of those guys is out of the NFL, and the other is being taken in the 3rd round of redraft leagues. And I'm wondering why.
Seems legit. He was playing through a Lisfranc injury last year. Apparently, at least
playing the first year then.
Yeah, I know. Nothing.
He was better. I will admit he was better the first year, but I'm comparing it to last year in which he was one of the least efficient running backs, like on a per carry basis. He was better as a rookie, but like it was still volume based. And really what we wanted him for was he wasn't getting 100 carries a game. He was getting about 80 carries a game, I'd say, and 100 checkdowns from Ben Roethlisberger. The checkdowns were unreal. And once those dried up, like that's really what sent us into, we should care a lot about his efficiency. And like, I don't have a strong reason to believe those checkdowns are coming back.
Well, say even more ominously, he might be losing that role to Jaylen Warren, who was kind of like pseudo taking over. He'd like carved out a committee role and seemed like he was almost kind of taking over as the 3rd down back. It wasn't like complete his victory over Najee Harris in passing situations, but it was kind of trending that direction. I know they have a 2-year sample size of showing they really should not be treating Najee Harris as like an every snap player. He was literally an every snap player as a rookie, less so last year. And if Najee Harris isn't the primary pass catching back, I'm not saying that's like the most likely outcome, but I feel like it's a very possible outcome that Jaylen Warren becomes.
He needs to be the only pass catching back because like I don't think there's a strong reason to believe this team is going to be super efficient. Like one, I don't think it certainly doesn't talk like they're scheming things the right way to be an efficient offense. The line, they made improvements to the line in the offseason, but I don't think it's going to turn around overnight. Maybe they're an average offensive line if things break well for them. Najee himself just isn't like a particularly efficient runner. He can handle a ton of volume, but like he needs to get most of the carries, all the goal line work, and all of the targets for him to really be a guy who can smash his ADP, because he's just not going to get there with like breaking off 30-yard runs every week or something like that. And if Warren just eats a chunk of that pass catching down work, that almost instantly removes him from being a potential league winner. And that's what we're shooting for when we take running backs in this range, because the bust rates on them are so high.
I mean, for me, just talking about Najee Harris's ADP, he is an absolute no-go for me. Like I would take anyone in that range for any position, not just running back over Harris. I mean, he played 17 games in his rookie year. He saw 94 targets. This is what you're getting at, Kyle. He saw 53 targets in 17 games last season, only 41 catches. I mean, that's just a monster hit to a guy who needs every touch he can get because he's so highly inefficient as a pass catcher and as a ball carrier.
He's going on the round 3-4 borderline right now, and he's going ahead of Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Wow. I would love to meet the person. I'd love to go to a coffee shop and meet the person who's taking Najee Harris over Jahmyr Gibbs. I want to talk. I want to pick that person. I want to pick that person's brain. I want to say, hey, what is
a person with strong American values? Touches are the only thing that matters. Do your job. Touch the ball.
What
every once in a while I will think like, oh, he's a first round running back still on his rookie contract. He catches passes. He runs the ball a lot. And I'm like, I'm typically arguing with like Denny, Pat, like our friends who think about things in the same way as me. And I'm like, you guys are too low on him. Let's bump him up in the rankings or something. And then I check my bump up against ADP. I'm like, oh, we're never getting him anyways. Who cares? Like, my slight pushback would never bring us close to like me, you guys actually taking him in a draft ourselves.
We'll be right back after this. Download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. And just a reminder, Sunday mornings mean MLB leadoff on Peacock. You can live stream games all season long. And this week we're featuring the upstart Orioles traveling to Wrigley Field to take on the Cubs. Catch the showdown at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, it is exclusively on Peacock. I had to say the word. What word did I just say? I was trying to say exclusively. I think I said exclusively.
Yeah, you said something different.
I was trying to remember the time. I forgot to change the time in the promo, producer Adam. I'm sorry. I was trying to remember off the top of my head. Not the Cubs.
Oh, well, there you go.
Not the Cubs.
Denny, who's your favorite Cubs pitcher?
Yeah. The kid from that movie in the 90s.
Henry Rowengarter. Next question. Who's your second favorite?
Carey. The guy who threw the no-hitter.
Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood.
It
wasn't a no-hitter. It was a 20 strikeout.
20 strikeout. Right.
Oh, 20 strikeouts. God, that's a lot of strikeouts.
Kyle, you can name probably one member of the current Cubs rotation, right?
You Drew Smiley or something like that? Is that how you say it?
How do you know Drew Smiley? But not like, why wouldn't you say Marcus Stroman first?
I wouldn't remember. I wouldn't remember that.
Why Drew Smiley is a true DFS sicko answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's certainly because he's the last Cubs player I played in DFS, pitcher at least.
That's an absolutely sick answer. Sorry,
is he not good? Did I make a mistake?
He's fine actually. I'll do better on the promo read next time, though. We got a few more news items before we get into our team preview series. Former Texans second rounder John Mechie is finally ready to make his NFL debut. There's super unfortunate cancer diagnosis, missed his entire rookie season. He is ready now, though. There's some hype. There are targets for the taking in this receiver core. This is a really, really, really strange group of players in the Texans receiver core as they try to break in the number 2 overall pick. You got Nico Collins, who hasn't delivered so far through the first 2 or 3 years of his NFL career. Got kind of intriguing rookie slot man Tank Dell, a fellow rookie Xavier Hutchinson. You got Noah Brown. I mean, this is a strange receiver core.
Did you say Robert Woods? I
was still scrolling down. They have like 14 wide receivers in their 90-man roster, the final of which in alphabetical order is Robert Woods, and who I guess we will be forced to draft. But either of you guys have a John Mechie case, or is this a situation? He was the number 44 overall pick only a year ago, but he missed his whole rookie year. It's a rookie quarterback. It's a totally jumbled situation. Are any of us drafting John Mechie?
I can't imagine a scenario where I feel compelled, but I don't know. Kyle, do you have a case? I'm more of a Nico Collins sort of guy.
Why? Yeah, I am too. Like he got better his second year. That first year was like legitimately. I was like, oh, we can probably write him off. I really didn't have any. He's too large.
And this doesn't work anymore. You can't be large and catch balls.
But did you see someone put his RAS, his relative athletic score, for those not in the know, next to Julio Jones, and they were next to each other. The thing is, they were both on the same page. Were they the same numbers? No. Julio was better in every single metric across the board except height, but he was heavier. And even though the numbers look similar in RAS is a percentile rank, so you actually have to move like another standard deviation past it. But other than he's studying Julio Jones's tape per Bobby Slowick or whatever. So he did. Kidding aside, he got better last year. He was like kind of a disaster as a rookie. Just didn't seem to adjust the NFL well. His yards per out run increased. His like target share increased. He was just more efficient, more productive. And there's, like you said, targets up for grabs on an offense that will be better. Cannot be worse. I don't know how good it'll be. It will not be as bad as last year. So
I feel like it could be worse.
Dude.
I don't think so.
I mean, never say never.
Do you remember the Jeff Driscoll like short yardage packages? No. It cannot be worse than that.
Rivers McCown will never forget them. seared into his memory after we made him blurb every Texans game, and we'll continue to do so. Denny, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so our friend Rich Rebar from Sharp Football actually tweeted about Nico Collins a little bit the other day, and it caught my attention. Here are some of the things that Rich mentioned. Almost 26% of Nico Collins' targets last year were deemed inaccurate. That's the fifth worst among all wide receivers. Almost 38% of his targets downfield were inaccurate. So he really was not getting very good quarterback play, along with the rest of the Houston offense, of course. Pat, you seem skeptical, but I do think that Nico Collins, with the quarterback upgrade, becomes somewhat interesting.
I was kind of interested in Nico Collins last year. I just feel like no matter how bad the setup is, like if you're legit and you're through 2 years in the NFL, you're already 24 years old. You're gonna have had a 500-yard season. Like it doesn't really matter how bad the setup is. Like normally, if you've got the talent, it shines through in like some kind of undeniable way. And we'd be making this case right now, and we still wouldn't be fully sold, but it would be after he had like an 871-yard season, and not a 481-yard season. And just back-to-back years of not even reaching 500 yards is pretty rough stuff.
Yeah, I would guess if you looked at it, just even if it's like capturing a lot of guys, like, oh, well, this is his excuse. That's his excuse. Like on the whole, if you look at guys who do not have 500 yards in a season through 2 years, if you just never draft those guys, you're probably generally going to like profit on these bets. You're like at the highest level, you have probably spotted a correct statement. But if not Nico, Pat, then who? Because like, don't tell me Rob.
I mean, no. I mean, we all know the actual answer, by the way. Just smashing Dalton Schultz and whatever round he's in.
No, thank you.
Just like we did in Dallas. You guys didn't like it. You guys didn't like PPR points, I guess.
Come on, wait a second.
If you like PPR points, let me point you to 4'3", 12-pound Tank Dell.
I know, it actually is true. We're looking.
Tank's awesome. I joke about his size because we're nearly the same size. Tank is incredible. Like one of the most productive 2-season stretches you'll ever find in the history of college football. Like incredibly efficient, target dominator, and like we're talking about Nico Collins, no 500-yard season through 2 years, and I'm trying to hype him up. What about a guy who we haven't seen in the NFL yet? Like I'm a sucker for some Tank Dell.
Apparently, CJ Stroud was banging the proverbial
table.
That's
right, yeah.
For old Tank. So they like each other. We have a little narrative going on there.
Tank Dell really is the only Texans receiver I'll probably have like any shares of whatsoever. But his ADP could get wonky. I feel like everyone's kind of having the same thought with Tank Dell. Like it's gonna be cheap receptions. Like someone has to catch the ball in this offense. We got the narrative that they're friends. Man, oh man, were those two super, super productive years for the Houston Cougars.
Yeah.
So he is kind of the only one that generates any excitement. John Mechie, I know he like missed a lot of the offseason program with a hamstring injury. Just seemed like another year where like he'll be brought along very slowly. But that draft pedigree of John Mechie, he was number 44 overall pick. Like you can't ignore that. He is someone to keep in the back of your mind. But this though, it was like a totally different coaching staff and all that. It's like basically a new regime, even though it's Nick Caserio still. Just so many moving parts of the Houston Texans. That's why it's such a strange situation. We're almost to our team previews. One of them was the Buffalo Bills, who I wrote. Khalil Shakir is apparently the number 3 receiver. It seems to be the favorite to play in the slot. Maybe Trent Sherfield will steal some of that from him. Maybe Dalton Kincaid will successfully establish himself as the, quote, big slot, a thing that exists. And is Khalil Shakir like the sleeper amongst sleepers? Either of you interested in this? Because there's a lot of targets I feel like for the taking in this Bills offense.
I don't know if I can like talk myself into doing this like Bills receiver outside of Stefon Diggs again. I don't know. I guess, by the way, I'm going to say something and please don't cut my mic. Please don't kick me off the show.
I might just.
All right, producer Adam, cut his mic. I
think we should do it before he even says anything, actually.
Yep.
But listen, guys, Gabe Davis is no longer going in the 4th round. Okay. He's going in the 8th or 9th round in most formats. That's interesting to me. That's more interesting to me. So let's just keep that in mind. I'm more interested in Gabe Davis than I am Khalil Shakir.
I mean, I guess does that qualify as a bold take,
Is it?
Kyle?
I don't know.
I think at price, I don't know if you'd call it a bold take, but I agree. The reason that I'm grimacing at this is because I agree that like we're probably getting 90% of routes from Gabe Davis in a Josh Allen offense. And now it's priced as if he's not already an elite number 2 receiver. Or last year, we were making that argument, but also saying he is really good. We weren't even saying what if. We were saying we know for sure he is. You see that one playoff game? So I'm grimacing because Denny has made an accurate point that's like, it scares me a little bit that it's accurate. That like, yeah, I probably should be drafting Gabe Davis. I'm like, Khalil Shakir is so cheap. Like on underdog.
That's the thing. Khalil Shakir is just kind of an amazing free flyer. I feel like, and two, he's not like a journeyman. I like that it's only his second year. He was drafted by this team. He developed in this offense. I think he checks a few more boxes than a lot of like late round flyers do. I feel like.
Yeah, I like that. I like that it's just like, yeah, he's going to be on the field at some points for an offense that's really good. Like you said, it's the team that drafted him, and he got on the field as a lowly drafted player as a rookie. Like kind of some of the stuff we were saying about Gabe Davis to a lesser degree. Yeah, to a lesser degree. Like Gabe was, I think, more productive earlier in his career, but Khalil Shakir is so cheap that, yeah, I think it's going to be a problem for like, especially in season-long leagues. Like when are you starting this guy? Like maybe if we can find some trends in when they're going to play 3 wide versus 2 tight end more. But the problem is like, you need to know this is a game where they play 3 wide a lot, because if they don't, like you're getting Khalil Shakir taken off the field instantly for Dalton Kincaid. So I don't know if you'll ever know.
That is a pretty compelling question, is when will they actually play this guy?
Yeah.
When will I actually play this guy? I mean, when the answer is almost certainly never.
In best ball though, like he's going to have some games where he runs 70% of the routes. Some games. I don't know when they'll be, probably is the problem, but that will happen. And in those games, if it's a good scoring environment, he gets a long one, like he'll crack your flex spot or something for the cost of barely a top 200 pick. So yeah, I think the answer is just like the Bills, who are priced as if they don't exist anymore.
They are. It's interesting.
Like he's priced as if he doesn't exist. Gabe Davis is priced as if like we never cared about him in the first place, where clearly we did last year. Like even probably you can make an argument Dawson Knox, like, oh, rookie tight ends don't pan out. Dawson Knox plays a ton of snaps. It's easy to see how he goes out and scores 7 touchdowns again. So the discount Bills are probably an ugly but profitable pick.
So we'll just segue right into my Bills preview then, where there's a stat about the Bills running game I wanted to talk about, but it was just gory with Gabe Davis last year. His 1.43 yards per route run, or 56th amongst receivers. He averaged only 2.8 yards of separation, which that isn't always the most telling thing. It's like the bottom third of the league, though. He wasn't blowing by anyone, and he kind of needed to be blowing by people because that was part of his deal. He got wide open down the field, and he wasn't being given any cushion. Meaning they weren't respecting him. They weren't afraid of him blowing by him. Isn't that what that means? Hopefully. DBs were not afraid of Gabe Davis blowing by them. And he was just treated like not a good player. And all those stats are very concerning. But I mean, I've joked about this a lot, is like we like did our Gabe Davis cope. But I just still wonder if that ankle injury really did just wreck the entire season. And there was no way to properly evaluate him. You suffer a major ankle injury in week 1. I think he only missed a game, but he was clearly limited, like at least half the season, and it made it almost impossible to get his season on track. And I just wonder if we will see like an entirely different Gabe Davis this year. Clearly the truth is somewhere in between. Like the truth is probably somewhere in between like the elite number 2 we thought he was last year, and the total afterthought should be number 3 he's being treated as this year, is probably the truth with Gabe Davis.
You know what the first thing that comes up when I Google Gabe Davis ankle is an article from the Bills website, the official team website, from October 10th of last season. It says Gabe Davis gets his groove back after dealing with ankle injury.
Was that the 2 touchdown game versus, was it Pittsburgh, where he immediately broke 2 gigantic super ultra nuke touchdowns?
Oh yeah, the 98-yard touchdown.
So
I had him on the bench in my distance scoring league.
Yep.
I'll never forget.
Man, you never recovered from that, did you?
No, I actually did not. No, not a joke.
So he did not get his groove back, it turns out, and the ankle was an issue all season. And I don't think that we can discount that. But again, 4th round, no good. 8th and 9th round, I'm in. He's going to be running all the routes. His role hasn't changed at all in this offense.
The other stat I want to talk about the Bills real quick is, one of like the offseason narratives for the Bills has been time for Josh Allen to run less. I can't keep taking these hits. Averaged a career high 8 carries last year, and like they want to get more serious with Josh Allen. But then I remember I had to have someone look it up for me because I didn't know where to find the stat. I had a suspicion that no team gave its running backs fewer carries than the Bills last year, and it was correct. They were the only team in the league with fewer than 300 running back carries, and even if they had gotten to play a 17th game, they would have gotten nowhere close to number 31. Like they were far and away the team that gave the fewest carries to their running backs. And I mean, is that really going to change with Damian Harris and James Cook? And I just feel like it's just like totally empty lip service, basically, with the Josh Allen running. And it's a team that's going to remain committed to like a really frustrating committee in their backfield. And thus also it has no better, especially considering the lack of passing game options. Like, there's just no way to throttle off these Josh Allen rushes, even if they enter the season with those best intentions.
Right. I'm tired of worrying about the Buffalo running backs. I'm committed to not thinking about the Bills running backs at all this year. I'm good. I'll go elsewhere. I'll look elsewhere.
I really don't. They seem every time they simplified and clarified their committees, their running game got better. Even when it was just Devin Singletary, who was not good. When they just like started committing to Devin Singletary, especially down the stretch in 2021, the rushing attack got so much better and just like actually produced. And I've never seen a team so committed to ineffective committees and like not letting anyone know their role or not letting anyone get into a groove. And they appeared just totally committed to doing that again this year in 2023. And it's very sad. Kyle, what is something you want to talk about from your season preview for the Arizona Cardinals?
Oh my God, I totally forgot. As you were saying, I was like, "Whew, I know what's going on now." I'm here, I promise. I wrote up first. I was the first one of our 32 team previews, the Arizona Cardinals. And although we're gonna have to wait to see Kyler Murray. How long is kind of an interesting question because he goes so late that I'm probably not worried about in season long, but maybe in a best ball context, maybe like trying to scoop some value in a dynasty context, we could end up seeing him sooner than expected. So I want to know what's going on with Kyler Murray. Last year, he recorded career lows in target depth and in time to throw, i.e. he was doing the thing we make fun of Cliff for, the horizontal air raid, in which you throw well short of the sticks. Kyler also had one of the lower throwing past the sticks rates in the NFL. And in turn, with career lows in target depth and time to throw, his yards per attempt hit a career low and his touchdown rate hit a career bottom. This was despite in 2021, PFF graded him as their number one deep ball passer. And I think sometimes that can get tricked into looking better than it is because it's guys who are only taking the layups. They just take the open shots. I think 1 year Tyrod Taylor was the best deep ball thrower. Clearly that is sort of tricking the system. This was not the case. He was the 4th highest rate of deep ball throws. So if you can match high volume of something with high efficiency of something, I will believe without question you're probably good at that thing. This is one of the best deep ball throwers in the league in 2021, and they just cut it out of his game last year. And they added Marquise Brown. We finally need to see Kyler in an offense that really actually helps him and helps itself. And maybe we'll get that this year. We can't get it less than we got last year. So It may take some time until we see him. But Marquise Brown with very little target competition, with a better schemed deep ball attack from Kyler Murray, that could be exciting. And it could hit perfectly as you get to the midpoint of the season and ride that into the playoffs. So I'm in on the idea of the Cardinals at some point as an offensive team. Also, I don't expect their defense to be good. We should get some shootouts circa week 10, maybe. I don't know.
And now, thanks to Kyle, I'll be drafting Kyler Murray for the 5th straight year. And it's going to this time it counts till the end of time.
I know sometimes I run circles around my own self with all sorts of fancy numbers and metrics. Listen, Kyler Murray, it's simple.
Stop.
He's too small. He's too small. You don't draft him. He's too small.
This is absurd.
It's just it can be simple. I've determined that you can just be simplified analysis and you can say, hey, look, this man is just too small to succeed in the NFL.
Daddy, you heard a little guy named Drew Brees? A little fella named Drew Brees?
You are fired.
I have. I was actually coworkers with Drew Brees for a while.
You may remember, Kyle. that we worked with Drew Brees.
Ironically, I've been tangentially coworkers with Drew Brees twice now.
Wow.
He was like a brand sponsor for a company I used to work for.
So did you work for that pyramid scheme or whatever? That he was.
No. I worked for a company called BioFreeze. We had the Portland Trailblazers jersey patch too, and Breeze was.
You worked for BioFreeze? Didn't they sponsor like that mascot who like outran people at Atlanta Braves games too?
I hope we did. That's awesome. I know. I've seen that video. Just the guy in the whatever.
They would give fans like 100-yard head start, and he was wearing like a full costume, and he would just blow by them. It was wild.
I've seen this, yeah.
The guy fell.
This one is the guy started celebrating, and the guy was
Yes.
passing him as he was celebrating, and then he saw the freeze, and he fell.
Yeah, and you know who that's going to be? You know who that's going to be this year in week 10, 11, 12? Kyler Murray. He's a little fast. He's little, and he's fast, Denny. Is he?
No, this is a question that I have. And again,
Is he?
wait a second. I have no metrics to back this up. All I'm saying from an anecdotal standpoint, I watch the games. You guys don't watch the games. I watch the games. And all I know is that every time Kyler Murray takes off, he has those little Keith Byers steps. And some 280-pound linebacker tracks him down with ease.
He does get tripped up extremely.
It's not even hard. He's not even like among the 5 fastest guys on the field. He's quick, but he's not fast.
Wow. No. This is as the kids would call cap. The first thing I Google is that he ran a 4.44 at his pro day. That's faster than a lot of.
That was his pro day. I actually do agree with Denny that Kyler Murray always looks fast. Then I always see him getting tackled easily and from behind.
He doesn't go anywhere.
No, he's not very laterally explosive.
No, he there's lots of running. Man, that guy can run. He can run a lot more than I can. But there, he'll run for 15 seconds and gain 4 yards.
Yeah, he is very fast in the pocket. I will say that he's good at. He's usually good at eluding the pass rush. But
he covers
field.
If you counted yards just physically moved, he'd have so many rushing yards. Yeah. I have seen him run from far left field all the way to the right, and then throw a 2 ADOT bomb right to Rondale Moore, which clangs off of his hands.
Way too soon. Denny, I couldn't help but notice you didn't sign up for a team preview until June 30th.
That wasn't
June 15th.
That wasn't intentional. I swear.
Were you last?
I know. I signed up for teams that I was interested in, and I guess I landed on those.
It just all happened to be. There's actually no real advantage to the times you picked.
Yeah.
So
I think I have the Jags first.
You do. So you haven't had a team post on the site yet, but our friend, our colleague, Zach Kruger, had posted an article in the Baltimore Ravens. Denny, what was an interesting statistical takeaway from Zach's article?
So Zach got really deep. I really recommend folks read all these previews because I know that especially if you're really in the fantasy space for the whole year around, you can hear the term team preview and kind of just gloss over it. But there really are some helpful little tidbits here. Zach gets into Lamar Jackson as a passer over his career because the idea is that Todd Monken and the Ravens are going to throw at least some more, maybe not a ton more, but some more than they did under Greg Roman, which is good for fantasy. It's good for the pass catchers. Can Lamar pull it off? And the answer is yes. I mean, Zach really breaks down the different kinds of throws that Lamar has excelled at over his career. The deep ball is not one, and I thought that was interesting. I would have guessed that it would have been. But he's been a very poor downfield thrower throughout his NFL career. So hopefully the Ravens don't, take that sort of approach, which I don't think they will. Greg Roman, that's what Greg Roman did, was lots of running, run, bang downfield. Hopefully some Marquise Brown, whoever catches it in that old Greg Roman offense. I don't think they're going to do that anymore. And Lamar has been a good intermediate thrower, not great, but good. And I think that this offense can work.
Yeah, Ravens are going to be one of the absolute most fascinating teams, maybe the most fascinating team in the league this year, where just finally have Lamar Jackson healthy, finally have Lamar Jackson with peace of mind and re-signed to a long-term contract, finally aggressively addressed this receiver room that was just by far the most undermanned in the entire NFL last year. I mean, truly embarrassing the players they were playing down the stretch. So a total clean house moment for a Ravens team that still made the playoffs and might have made the divisional round if Tyler Huntley had not had one of the craziest fumble sixes
my gosh.
in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
So the Ravens are a super fascinating team. Really, really good series, like Denny pointed out. We had Kyle on the Cardinals, Lawrence Jackson on the Atlanta Falcons, Zach on the Ravens, myself on the Bills, Kyle dropping on Friday with the Panthers, continuing every weekday for the next 5 or 6 weeks. So please check it out on the site, our fantasy preview series for 2023. And I think we're done podcasting for today.
All right.
Any final thoughts?
I just want to emphasize that Kyler Murray is not a tall man.
Yeah, and want to emphasize that Denny, he's not thinking clearly because he's already in mental anguish from his U.S. Open lineups.
I just can't talk about the fact that I have no Ricky Fowler, and Ricky Fowler is as we speak, is about to set the record, the U.S. Open scoring record, single round scoring record. So congratulations to Ricky. Not so much congratulations to my DFS lineups.
Ricky Fowler really famous for sealing the deal on Sundays, right, Denny?
Oh, it's already done, folks. It's a done deal.
Really, really famous for that part. So, Kyle, you have any? I'm sure you're doing U.S. Open DFS, right? By the way, airing on NBC and Peacock. Check it out.
That's right.
All right, sorry, I cut Kyle off there, but yeah, we got to end the show. I
don't know any of these guys, so like I have nothing interesting to say. Denny could say literally if he was like, yeah, Arnold Palmer's shooting 48 under, and he's got a 32 plus WOBA, and he's got 8 air yards. I'd be like, yeah, he does, buddy. So
man, I don't have any Bagger Vance. I don't have any Fred Couples. I don't have no one. You guys didn't laugh. Do you remember the Bagger Vance movie?
I vaguely do.
I never saw it. I believe it starred Robert Redford and Will Smith. I don't remember.
It was Will Smith. I don't know. It was Matt Damon, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, anyways, Bagger Vance is about to shoot a course record.
So
boy, that's a horrible joke. Time to end the show.
Shout out to Ricky for ruining my life.
For Denny Carter, from Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week.